BTC at 80K. It's dark and it's dirty out there at the moment. We've got all markets busy collapsing. They're falling over. There's talks of recession. There's talks about Donald Trump basically running the show here, causing things to fall over. So guys, we're going to talk about this in detail. We're going to look at the current recession situation, and we're going to talk about what's next for Bitcoin, what's next for these altcoins, because what we can see is they're moving into some massive zones here. So even if we're going to get some kind of short-term move, something is coming around the corner. So much to talk about here on a Monday. Let's get right into this. And remember, guys, as always, hit the like, hit the bell, hit the subscribe. And they specifically asked me to get the titties out today just to get something going. So we really have ripped this one open a little bit more, trying to get some of the flavor. There's James, he's ready to go. And then I've got Chaos in the house. We're bringing some indicators as well. Is it time to go to hell, or is it time to do something next? Are we going up and down, right?
Maybe up.
Maybe up. Okay, I mean, again, not convinced. We're going to have to wait and see what he has to say with those indicators. Alex says we're on the express elevator. Where? And Chinkatron says we are cooked. Guys, come on. Remember this bearish sensation. Remember the bearish feels, okay? Frank says don't get scared. You buy when there's blood in the streets. That's my boy there. Frank over there. Okay, so Banter Bubbles, I would say a mixed bag, but not really. It's absolute dog shit once again. So we had a short-term bounce yesterday. It looked very nice. In the evening, Asia gave us a little bit of a move, and now the US, and I think as expected, has come and flushed us out a little bit. Now we are busy with a short-term bounce in the market now on the lower time frame, so we're going to look at that and see if that is potentially sustainable. But overall, a little bit of a mess here. Ondo even taking some big blows. Bittenser taking pain. That link short just continues to print all the way down. I mean, do we actually need to close this thing, or are we leaving this link short basically to zero? I mean, Chaos gave it to us last week, and we'll debate that now. We'll see if we need to close that thing or send it a little bit lower. So let's get into BTC, and let's just cover what is actually going down. So just in terms of the 2 hour, now we looked at this one at length yesterday on the show as well, but in terms of the 2 hour, some basic stuff here. We've lost our rising trend, so that is obviously a little bit bearish, and you can see we are in a new downtrend here on the 2 hour. So it's not a new trend. It's been running since the highs on Thursday. So we can see we are bearish on the 2 hour. So we're not getting, too excited for too many things. But in terms of support zones, what has actually happened here? This August VWAP from the dumps in August came into play last night. This was one of our levels we were looking at 79,800 it was, and they gave us, I mean, I don't want to say a nice bounce because this is offensive to me, but they did give us a bounce, and they did give some of these alts a little bit of a recovery play. But now the US has opened and they've taken it all away again. So in terms of levels that we need to watch now, you can see we've had quite a strong bounce now after that little sell-off. So your first marker is going to be, and I'm talking to the degens here, your first line of support is going to be 79,120. That is what you guys need to watch now in the interim. And if this short-term move is going to continue, we're going to highlight a couple of areas that are potential danger zones. So 79,120, watch that one to the downside. Now, where do you need to be careful? So again, we've been in such choppy conditions here that I mean, we're getting absolutely desperados on these lower time frames. You can see immediately we've got 81,800. That is a danger zone for us. Then a little bit lower down, we've got our highs from yesterday, or from earlier today, and we've got our 382 in the way. So this is quite a big zone for us from 83,800 to the 382 fib at 84,800. So this is an interesting region as a whole. You can see that's our highs, that's our 382 fib. In fact, oh, sorry, let's adjust that. There we go. Okay, that's a bit better there. And that zone is obviously our danger zone. So 84,400 down to 83,800. That region there is the banger. Okay, so look out for that guy. And then a little bit to the upside, don't forget, we've now got a CME gap that is opened, and the close for the gap is around about 86K. So that suddenly tells us that this is often an area where the bulls want to come and close this region. They want to come and close that gap. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get some kind of injection in the market, some kind of move to the upside. Look out for quite a big rejection at around 86 to 86.5. I've got VWAPs in that zone as well. I've got horizontals, and we've got the trend there. So that 86 to 86.5, that's a big danger zone there. For me, if we go higher, we'll relook at it, okay? If we go higher, we'll start adjusting some levels. But for now, look out. There's a lot going on at that 86K zone. Then if the market wants to bleed a little bit lower, we're going to keep it really simple here. And on the 2-hour time frame, as the market falls over and as we move into these lower zones, we can always find a couple of areas where things can stabilize or where things can bounce a little bit there. And let's look at a couple of those areas. So the first one for me is 78,000. Look for out there. That is our wick low to the downside. So 78K, that's an interesting one. Then we've got our original CME gap at 77K. Look out, that thing hasn't been filled yet, and we haven't closed that gap in full. So I wouldn't be surprised if they want to push us down into the 77K. That is still on the table for us as well. And then if we're going to go a little bit lower, guys, we can play this game all the way down wherever we've got little clusters. You can see you can hunt for your clusters here to the left-hand side of your chart. There's lots of little regions there where you can get short-term bounces. And in terms of the next one, 75,600. So you can play that game all the way to the downside, but what we do know is it's messy. Okay, we're not enjoying the short-term little moves unless you're a scalper and you're trading with the guys in trading zone in hackers and you're going long and short and you're doing 2-3% moves. That there's a lot of excitement in that, but in terms of the guys looking for the bigger moves, I think we need to be just a little bit more careful, and we're dialing things down a little bit. And I'm not in loads of trades at the moment, but I am sniffing some kind of market reversal around the corner. And I know he was being a bit coy, but I know he's got his eyes on a couple of reversals here, and because of this, we are also going to be taking a look at a lot of higher time frame charts for you guys today. So I've got loads of charts for you from Render, AVAX, Ondo. I've even got Fetch for you guys. I've got CAS. We've got all these tokens moving into some big zones, and we're going to cover you guys and make sure that you have the right information. And we're also doing a giveaway because the market is so shit and the market is so rough. We've decided to give away some Bitfunded to you guys as well. And these boys are going to decide what that all looks like. So when you're ready, you're going to tell us what that all looks like. But we're going to give you guys some Bitfunded. So make sure you are sticking around. We want to sort you guys out, and especially those that got a little bit rinsed here. Let's get you some Bitfunded going. Now, let's take a look at the damage. 24-hour wreck. This is my CoinGlass liquidation data sheet. $690 million got wrecked. Okay, so it's been a very rough couple of days. Last week we hit $1 billion on one of them. Then we went 200 and we thought so nice. Then we went 300. I think this weekend we were on 500, and 690 billion liquidated in the last 24 hours. Guys, it's messy out there at the moment, and the market is back in extreme fear. Now, we went as low as 16 before we had a big bounce the other day, but we are pushing into potential bounce zone here if we trade the fear and greed index. The market is absolutely shitting itself. Okay, so 20 is pretty scary, and I mean, I just love this. This is me. This is the dip. And this is what happens when you're out of cash. And it just feels like the dip keeps dipping. But now we're going to move into some massive zones. And I want to give you guys some big areas here on some of these tokens. And there might be a sign that the bottom could potentially be in, because Kramer has started saying things like it's time to get out now from everything other than Johnson & Johnson. So basically, to me, that means we need to exit Johnson & Johnson and long the shit out of everything else, basically, from what we're seeing over there. So that is something to watch. We know we like to inverse trade him. So let's see. Now, there's a lot going on in the news. And I mean, we're talking about the possible recession, but there's also the trade wars. They're not going away. It's an absolute dog show at the moment with what's happening politically out there in the US. And Bricks News reporting the Canadian Prime Minister, the new man, Mark Carney, says he will continue trade wars with the United States. My government will keep tariffs on until the Americans show us some respect. Well, okay. I mean, sometimes you got to drop principle and just go with the flow. But let's see what he has to say.
The Canadian government has rightly retaliated and is rightly retaliating with our own tariffs that will have maximum impact in the United States and minimum impact here in Canada. My government will keep our tariffs on until the Americans show us respect.
Cool. Good luck with that. So, I mean, I don't know. It's like this is going to be the ego play now, and who's got the bigger balls and who's got the bigger ego, and it's probably going to be at the expense of Canadians, because I think if there's going to be a knife fight or a gunfight, I think the Americans are going to win. So what are your thoughts on this being a dual citizen?
Do you have the Cartman respect my authority clip there, maybe? I mean, this is not going to end well for Carney or Canada or the US.
It's a lose-lose, right?
For everyone. Prices just go up for everyone, and people are struggling already. This is not going to end well. And yeah, I mean, I see Trump's plan here, and obviously everybody's talking about it now, what he's trying to do, and refinance the $7 trillion in debt with lower rates, and that's fine. But the pain in the short term for investments, if you're a long-term investor, doesn't matter. But for everyday people that need to buy groceries and pay the rent and buy gas, this is going to be horrible.
It's an ego show at the moment, and everyone else is the pawn in the whole operation. Okay, and like James said, it is Trump's plan to cause a bit of chaos, because they're looking to refinance some of the debt. And I touched on this on the show yesterday, and we looked at it in detail. But 𝗂𝗍𝗍 reporting: does the U.S. government actually want a recession? In 25, $9 trillion of U.S. debt will either mature or need to be refinanced. The quickest way to lower rates ahead of this colossal refinancing would be a recession. Could the U.S. benefit from a market crash? So yes, they could actually, and that is why there's a little bit of pain. So this was the theory that had come out a couple of days ago. This was on March 4th, and the guys were talking about why Trump wants to crash the markets. And I did cover this on the show last night, so you can follow this guy, Amit Investing. He explained this whole theory behind it and lowering the rates and all those things. So if you want to give that a read, take a look there. And then U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent has said there's going to be a detox period for the economy. Now, I don't like the sound of a detox in the economy. It sounds like a fucking rinse, okay? It sounds like a proper rinse coming, and that is something we need to be aware of. And, you know, if this is their plan, sure, we might get small little bounces in between, but we really need to be looking a little bit lower if that is going to be the full move of these guys. So 𝗂𝗍𝗍 again, they're saying the current state of the market, Nasdaq 100 is officially in correction territory. I think we agree on that. Gold prices are up 50% over the last 13 months. Nice. Oil prices down 20. 10-year note yield down 60 basis points over the last 2 months. Crypto erased $1 trillion in 2 months. Fuck me. And I mean, that's a lot, okay, for such a small market cap. Oh my God. Markets now expect 3 interest rate cuts in 2025. Now, remember, just the other day, they were saying there's a possibility of no rate cuts in 2025. Now, all of a sudden, we're pricing in 3 because recession has now entered the chat again, and the markets are starting to fall over. So the White House just declared America will be Bitcoin superpower of the world. Meanwhile, unprecedented wave of gold is flowing back into the US. Trump's golden age is built on hard money. Get some, supplies are limited. Okay, so the gold is going down at the moment. I thought, let's take a look at this gold chart today. I think, Chaos, you had a gold scalp today. And I mean, this is obviously the weekly chart, but you guys are just doing a couple of things there in Hackers to keep yourselves entertained. What happened on gold today?
It is quite entertaining. It was down on the 15-minute. We've basically set up a stonks channel because why not? And commodities and everything. And actually, we've given 2 trades today. I gave 1 and Trader Jay's given 1. And we have 2 for 2 for today. So it was okay on the smaller time frames. But yeah, long term, it's not easy, man. It's not easy.
Well, I mean, we are trying to keep you guys very busy. So we're bringing in gold and we're bringing in stocks, and we're going to be trading all of these on BTCC. So that is a new channel we've brought into Chart Hackers to make sure if these shit coins are giving us a hard time, well, we're going to cover gold, we're going to cover silver, we're going to cover oil, we're going to cover stocks for you guys. So that stuff is going down. Just anyone interested in gold, I mean, I don't really watch it that much anymore, but in terms of a couple of targets, you can see this thing has successfully hit our various 618s, our 1618, our 2618, and I would say the next target for gold is 3,276. So if you've got loads of patience, that is something you could watch and potentially ride up into that type of area before there's the next potential sell-off. So just interesting here with gold, and big support on the weekly. Anybody trading gold on the weekly, 2,800 looks interesting. That's our 50-day. It's our pivot level as well. So makes sense to me. Gold traders 2.8 from a higher time frame, looking interesting there, and definitely looking super bullish still while the market is looking looking like this. Now, this one is interesting for me, and this is our S&P, and we're using this as a guide, obviously, for market sentiment. We're using our Bitcoin chart that is also looking pretty messy at the moment, but here is our S&P. And you can see we are back on support after bouncing quite hard on Friday. We had a nice little move on Friday off our support levels. 2% on the S&P is normally a nice little bounce out there, but we back again. Market is not happy. So in terms of what's next for the S&P, where can this thing go? Well, look, I'm sure these guys are watching these types of charts, even though they're saying they're not. And in terms of big levels, well, we can see this is support zone number 1, 5,630. Let's watch this area. If we do start the journey down, you're probably going to see something along these lines, and then we're going to be bottoming out at around about this 5,400 zone. So I expect something along these lines. If this Trump plan is going to continue to play out, I don't know why they would bounce the market here, or why allow the market to bounce in full here as the bottom. So I would say a little bit lower coming. I don't know what your thoughts are on this one, Chaos, but I mean, 5.4 at least for the bottom. What do you think their target is?
I do think we're going to be coming down. They were talking about some more corrections, weren't they? So, excuse me. Yeah, I think whilst people are playing big games with big people, big pots of money, I think they're just going to keep taking from those of us that have previously been long, you know. I think we've got some way to go yet. But there will be bounces coming. That's the
look, in between, we know we get these bounces, but look, another 4% on the S&P. People are going to be screaming, you know, another 4% here, and we're talking 12% correction. It's not actually, we've seen worse.
We have. We've seen worse pretty much every day for the last few months.
Okay, well, you and James, you're going to decide what the plan is for these Bitfunded. We want to do a giveaway for you guys. So, yeah, we're going to pull out Chaos now. He's got tons of stuff for us. He's talking short term. There might be some reversals coming. We're going to see if we get some action. And Bison Jim Pami says the candles are so big, I do not see us reversing anytime soon. Yeah, look, we start small. We start baby reversals. Sometimes it turns into something bigger, and then we'll see. But in terms of the bigger picture for Bitcoin, and we've looked at the bigger picture for the S&P, in terms of the bigger picture for Bitcoin, I still think it's reasonable to assume, and whatever that path is, now we don't have to debate what the path looks like, but in terms of where this thing ends up before the major move back to the upside, I would say at least between 73 and 69k is starting to make sense for me. That is a big zone. Then obviously, if we get into this region and we don't get a sharp bounce, we'll be looking at a couple more weekly levels to the downside. You can see there's a lot of levels here that we can attack for Bitcoin, and we'll deal with it when we get there. But at the moment, big level 73 to 69, that is starting to make the most sense for me in terms of being a magnet. Okay, and we're looking to hit those areas before we get some major bounce. But then in terms of short term, you can see we track the 2-hour chart, we look for bounces in between, and there's a lot of short term moves. And you know, even if we get a bullish bounce out of the market, we cannot get overly excited until we start reclaiming some serious levels here to the upside. So right now, you know, on the weekly chart, 89 to 91 makes a lot of sense here as a big rejection zone as well, and that could obviously start that move back down to that 69 or 70k regions. Shiba Max 72k, I like the smell of it, I like the scent of it. And yeah, the Alchemist is in the house. Here he is. He's still getting used to his name, but I think we settled on well with the Alchemist. And are you comfortable with the Alchemist? Are you happy with that?
Yeah, all good for me.
He's comfortable. Okay, that's good to know. The man is comfortable with the Alchemist. Okay, let's get into what comes next. Let's get into a couple of things. So what we can see here is the BTC funding rate has actually turned negative. Okay, so you know, short term, maybe something bouncy on its way. So that's a little bit of information. Then I've got my liquidation heat map. I've highlighted the 1 week liquidation heat map. You can see there's a lot of juice to the upside. Look at this, 84,200. We've got 87k, lots of juice to the upside, lots of reason for these market makers to perhaps send us a little bit higher before they drop us to that 70 region. So that is available there. And then I touched on this one last night, and I'm actually loving this again. Nice to pull this out. This is our 4-hour 4-hour crypto market RSI heat map. Now, it's very basic, okay, but basically what this tells you is if you backtest this over time, when these tokens get heavily oversold on the 4-hour, you know, within a couple of days, there is some kind of reversal and some kind of bounce, even if it is a short-term bounce. And you can see the majority of these tokens are really sitting in heavily oversold conditions here at the moment. So trying to veer away from getting too bearish on major support. Now, obviously, these conditions are very unique with what is going on, and we could obviously see a lot more downside. But in terms of our check boxes of what we like to see before we get some kind of reversal, this is one of them. And we are moving with a lot of these altcoins into some big zones as well. And look, give or take another 5-10% dip potentially as well. But we are moving into these types of zones where we need to start paying attention. We need to take note of what is going on. So with all this information at hand, let's take a look at what is going on with the alts and the rest of the market. So USDT dominance, this is our big one. This is our weekly chart. And you'll remember last Sunday we had a beautiful move in the market. That was a big rejection on USDT dominance. That is now all but given up all those gains, and we are now back at our resistance band for USDT dominance. Why is this important? Well, if dominance is pumping, it means they're taking money out of the market, all the tokens or Bitcoin, and they're pumping it into USDT. If USDT dominance is falling over, it means the market is ripping, money's going back into the tokens, Bitcoin, etc. So what we want to see is we track this at resistance zones. And for me, 5.6, this is a rejection area here, short-term bounce zone. If we do get one more push in USDT dominance, this is going to be your next bounce zone that you're going to be looking for. So right now we are in a region where you want to be looking for longs, leaning in favor of longs. And if we do pop through, yes, those longs might get stopped and you're going to get pushed up into that zone. And that is going to be your next area where you might want to be looking for longs. So in between, you rather just want to wait that out. You want to wait for this thing to bang into its next zone. And then that is going to be our next area. And a lot of these alts, if we do get a move like that, a lot of these alts will drop now a further, say 10%, maybe some even more into those next zones. So we're going to make sure you guys are prepped with all of these levels as well. And 𝗏𝗏, today is the first day I turned bearish. So I think that's quite bullish. I think so. I mean, we inverse bull there on 𝗏𝗏 turning bearish. 𝗏𝗏, I think you've come and rescued the market here. Now, here's anybody that is turning a bit bearish. Here's an interesting comment from 𝗏𝗆𝗀𝗱. I actually just enjoyed this. He says the price action of the last week leads to awkward bag holding. You don't want to sell because it's already down a lot, and you're tempted to wait for a bounce to reassess. Here's a simple test. If I didn't have a position, would I want the exposure I have now? Yes, well, then you're okay. If the answer is no, well, do something about it. Active positions cost mental capital, which is a scarce resource. You're less likely to spot and execute the next good trade if the current shit trade is eating away at you. So there is something to be said for cutting a position and starting afresh. Like, there's something very toxic about staring at super red positions all day long, and especially if you've got multiple positions open. There's something very refreshing as a leverage trader about cutting a position and then reassessing and starting afresh. So it is mentally quite a relief. You feel this weight off your shoulders, and we're going to talk about ETH just now because I've got a fucking massive weight on my shoulders here that I'm dealing with. We'll cover that one at the moment. So let's go. Ben Cowan saying we are now still on step 2. Okay, and Arctic Trading says he can't afford the undies at the moment. Bro, have you rinsed all of your undies there, bro? What's going on? Ben Cowan, he says he's given us various steps in January. Okay, one of them was dominance goes back to 60%. That's his box ticked. The next one was market sells off and ETH goes home. Now, he was talking about ETH versus BTC going to some really low levels. So we're going to look at that chart. Then he said Fed ends QT, market rallies. Okay, macro gets worse later on in the year. This was his prediction, but very interesting that he was talking about ETH here. And he says his levels for ETH, 2,000, 16, 22, 12, then up. Okay, so he's just speculating where ETH can go, and it's a very interesting thing that he's talking about. So let's take a look at step 1, his dominance chart. So dominance, we hit his 60%, so we know that. So that's his first target that has been attacked. So what do we want to see as altcoin traders? We just want to see this dominance drifting down. So you can see your big resistance zone here on dominance. We have had a rejection, and if we get an altcoin rally, now we've touched on these things before. if we do get an altcoin rally, we need to get our dominance chart out, because we got to find out where that dominance can bounce. And where that dominance can bounce is typically where you're looking to take profit on some of your altcoins. So if dominance starts falling over, here is your bounce zone. Okay, 60.2% is what you're going to be watching. That is going to be your big bounce zone. So if we do get some kind of short-term rally in the market, let's not get euphoric. Let's look for a bounce at 60.2%, and we'll deal with it then. That's probably where these altcoins will reject. And if not, they might potentially reject then at 59.8%. So these are going to be your big levels that you want to watch. And 607 says, chart hackers saved me mentally. Guys, that's the thing. Okay, that's the thing about having a community to trade with, to share your wins with, and most importantly, to share your losses with and your pain with in a community. I remember when I started trading, I was alone, and it was a terrible space to be. You know, I was at home alone. I didn't have anyone to share my losses with, my gains, and get advice from, and things like this. And this is why we created Chart Hackers. This is what it's all about. And that is why we've got this beautiful community there now, and an amazing trading team to help you guys through these moments. These are very tough mentally moments that we are dealing with at the moment. So let's look at Ben Cowan's ETH versus BTC. We can see our dominance looks like it wants to come down, and now ETH BTC, he wants to still send this thing home. And I expect if ETH is going to go to 1.2 or 1.6 that he's talking about, we're probably coming down to the 16 zone. So this is not off the table yet. And what we do know about these big types of levels is as we hit these zones, in between, there is relief. Okay, so it's not all going to be a one-way straight line. You can see what's happened here. We've jumped into a major level. We had a beautiful pump on ETH, lots of profits to be made, and then a big rejection. Okay, so we're moving into an area again. We might get a bounce here short term, but if we do go to the depths of hell and we start going home, according to Ben Cowan, we will get a big bounce here from ETH. So just make sure you don't get too despondent, because that's going to be your money-making channel, your money-making level that you're going to take advantage of. So remember, all these big zones are potential massive bounce zones here for the market and for ETH and the altcoins. So don't lose too much hope. These are the zones we're going to watch. So 237, 238, big support here, and then lower down 1.6 is going to be your next big level. Okay, now we're getting into the alts now, guys. Merlin the trader says alt season index is at rock bottom. And I remember just the other day, we had a 3-day alt season, and we still laughed at this thing. It sat at the top for 3 days, and we were like, fuck this shit. Where's our alt season? And then they just sent us all the way back down. So we are moving into the bounce area of Bitcoin season. And typically when we start getting these pushes back to the upside, we start seeing the alts wake up a little bit. So little bit of hopium here. This is something going on here at the moment. So we've done this whole journey. You would have noticed all these alts getting rinsed, Popcat going to 16, 90% dump, all those things. Now we are at this area where we may be getting some kind of altcoin relief. Okay, so I'm just dropping that there. Okay, again, it's not all doom and gloom out there other than my ETH trade. And this is where I really need my bounce now or cut it off. And I don't have it, okay, because Twitter's fucked today and Twitter's not loading all of the charts. So I really want bounce now and cut it off, because there it is. There it is. Come to me. Come to me. Give it to me. Okay, wait. Come on, come on, come on. Okay, well, you know what we want, guys. We bounce now or we cut it off. And this is pretty much where we're looking at ETH. So this is the story. You know, we are busy losing major levels. Psychological level on ETH 2000, we know that, but what happens next? So looking at the current situation, and I'm actually glad Chaos is here because I know he's got the ETH chart as well. Looking at the current situation, what is the most likely situation to happen for me? In my opinion, I think we drop a little bit harder. We hit this 1.9, then we have some kind of relief bounce, and then they start this journey all the way back down. So that is kind of what I'm leaning to at the moment. And that is probably going to result in me getting stopped on at least a portion of, there we go, bounce now, or I cut it off. But this is literally where I am sitting at the moment. You can see I'm cutting half my ETH position at 1980. Okay, so I'm just going to save a bit of capital there. If it hits 198 and 1980, I'm cutting half of that position. We can always add again later. Okay, so I just want to save a bit of capital because I suspect if we do lose that level, there's a pretty good chance that we are going to go bounce at this 1.9 before we have some kind of relief rally. Let's see what Chaos actually has to say. And Zen says, bye-bye Tuesday. Okay, talk to me about ETH, boss. What's going on?
Okay. Do you want to bring my screen up?
There it is.
There we go. Brilliant.
Oh my God, you're sending us to hell, bro.
Not necessarily. So I've got similar. Oh, I'm missing a rectangle. Sorry. So we're currently sitting on a bounce level. Let's just drop that one in as well. Now, obviously, guys, just before we go any deeper today into what I'm saying, this is one of these moments where either when it feels really shit, you get the best buyers, or we've really not finished yet. So we have to wait and see what candles play out before we can really, make our minds up what's coming. So the levels that I've got, we're actually dipping into now. So we're sitting at, where are we now? 2000. This goes down to about 1945, which lines up with a cluster here. And then after that, I mean, realistically, you're looking at anything between 1850 and 1800. And then if we lose that, and this is just straight to hell back down to the 15s. But looking at the other parts of the indicator, we're obviously in a descending channel right now, which we've respected a few times. Let me just make it so you guys can see. Listen, the money flow, the point of control is right the way back up here currently, guys. There's an awful lot of stuff up here. There's a whole load of candles up here. There's a whole lot of resistance up here and liquidity. So if we do get some sort of reaction and we start to make our way up and actually start to gain some levels, then it won't feel like we're in hell for long. But we need to wait for these candles to really play out, first of all, to see what happens at the end of these patterns. We've got falling wedges. At the end of a falling wedge, you could get an inverse head and shoulders and then the pump. So, we just got to be very alert. And
what's your bounce level here?
So look, honestly, the bottom of this channel is 1937 to 1941. Listen, that's very precise. Call it 1925 to 1940. Okay.
And guys, there you go.
This channel alone, it's a 30% move. And as you can see, we've done it twice. We could very easily do it for a third time.
So it's normally at these times. Obviously, there's occasions when you're feeling max bearish and it goes a little bit harder. But generally, just be self-aware of how you're feeling in these areas. And this is often the time when you're feeling max bearish that we sometimes get a bounce. So again, we just use the information in front of us. And if you use it time and time again, and you use it consistently, and you continuously do that, it tends to work out in your favor. So that is the game plan there on ETH. So mine was a little bit lower. I was saying that's 1900, but you know what? My stop is sitting at 1980. And they're going to cut half that position if it drops lower down. Then, we'll look for consolidation and we can always add back to that position. Okay, so if we do get something going here on ETH and we get some kind of pop, there's still a trade potentially coming there. So all is not lost on ETH. Now, I want to talk about a little bit of Solana here. And God help us all, Dylan, we need to pray. Have we decided on the Bitfunded? I want to give people Bitfunded here. What are we doing?
What do you think?
That's your department. Okay. Okay. James is going to come up with something creative. Okay. You guys are going to come up with something smart. We've got to look after these people. It's been rinsage out there. Okay. So James, you keep thinking about it. He's coming up with a plan. Let's talk Sol. And there's a lot going on Sol. And obviously it's not going up at the moment. So AIXBT pump fund 24-hour volume collapsed to 600K, lowest since August. Bonding curve at 52K. Revenue down 93% from previous month. No wonder there's a little bit of Sol weakness. Then we've got Adam saying how far trading bot revenue has fallen. This is how much they made in a day at their peak versus today. Look at Photon, 5.9 million versus 290K today. Look at Bonkbot, 1.5 million versus 39K today. So you can see the Sol market or the meme market is taking loads of pain at the moment. Okay. And then I see Yanyo saying transcription of Ye and Ansom's conversation. Now, there's some kind of partnership going on between Ansom and Kanye West or whatever. And there might be some token getting built here or something that may or may not help the Sol ecosystem. So if you want to read about it, there's some stuff going down here. Jason Yanovitz is reporting about what is going on, and there's a nice picture of Ansom and Kanye. Okay, so maybe something brewing there. We know what a couple of the Trump tokens did to the Sol ecosystem, and there was a bit of pumpage. So maybe if something happens there could be something interesting or renewed interest in the market. Okay, and Chris says Jim Cramer is saying long. No ways, bro. I'm sure he was saying short. I'm sure he was saying exit. Surely. And Nine Breaker says the last thing we need is another celebrity meme coin. Fuck, I agree. Okay, I agree. I concur. Now let's talk some big levels here, guys. And obviously, there's going to be one or two scalper plays that you can look at today. But again, I'm not in tons of trades because we're just feeling super uncomfortable here at the moment with where the market is. But what we're going to do is we're going to play these big zones as always, and we're going to let them do what they need to do for us. So in terms of Sol, no changes. If you guys were watching the show yesterday, we've got a big range here for Sol. This is the weekly chart that I'm watching, and for me, it was anything from say 123 down to about 110. Okay, so without getting too aggressive and too degen, that for me looks like something happening here. Okay, so 123 down to 110 looks interesting here on the weekly for me. Now, obviously, we can go lower, obviously, and if we do, we need to be prepped. Now, we do know the next major level is going to be between 80K and 69K. We know that this is an interesting region, and you can see we've got a big wick over here that we could look to fill. So low 80s to 69 probably comes next. What does that look like? It's probably going to look like the ETH chart if it does start falling over, and that is typically, a journey. So you might lose this level, then you'll have some crazy pump, and everyone will get excited, but then ultimately we come back down to something like that. So not going to get too ahead of myself. Remember, if we do get some kind of move out of the markets here, we're going to be super disciplined in areas where we cut and where we take profit. And just before we go into a host of other higher time frame coins, I just want to give you guys a picture as to how you can play these things, especially on the short term. And I'm talking to the degens out there as well, and what you need to do. So when you zoomed out, you can see you've got your big zones, you understand your big areas where you can bounce. Then what you can do is you dial in on the lower time frame and you start attacking these areas where you get little reactions. Now, we know yesterday we longed Sol in this region over here, and there was a tiny little move out of Sol. So nothing to write home about. Then we've got the reversal, and now we are on another reaction zone. Now, typically, when you are looking for longs and when you are looking for shorts, well, what you want to see, or what I want to see, is the market falling over a lot into nice hot zones, and that is where we look for longs. If we are looking for shorts, we're generally looking for shorts after a beautiful pump in the market where the bulls are coming out and people are getting a little bit too euphoric. That normally gives us our best short entries. Now, in between, it becomes a little bit iffy. So you kind of want a big sell-off for a long or a big pump for a short. So right now, in terms of short, people are saying, why aren't we shorting, blah, blah, blah. Well, you can short if you want to short on major weekly support. And again, there's a good chance that it rips right through and you're 100% right. But what happens if you short on major weekly support here and you actually get a 20% snapback bounce in the market? What do you do? Okay, so that is why I'm a bit reluctant to add to any new shorts until we get a pump out of the market. So for me, what I'm looking for here on Sol, and I'm tracking the 1 hour chart now at the moment, and you're going to do this the same way when you're looking for longs. You're just going to pull your fibs. So from the highs, you're going to keep lowering your fibs down. Wherever this thing eventually bounces, you're going to get a nice alignment as to where this can go. And then you're going to start highlighting some zones where you can get a short. Now, in terms of short zones that I'm interested in, 132, okay, that makes sense to me. A pump into that. 136 makes sense to me, and then an absolute banger here at 140. So in terms of why am I not trying to short that, okay, because there's a chance that we're going to get a bounce first. Then we can get a nice short entry there out of the market. So I'm waiting for this thing to start reversing to the upside. When it starts bouncing to the upside, we'll hopefully print a little bit on some longs. And then, when we get to our short zone, that is where we can look for head shorts. That's where we can take profit. And that is where we're going to look for fresh shorts on these tokens. So that is the system that we like to follow. What does Luke say? Good Lord, Jason. What is he saying? Is this not already bad enough? Not Dot. Who's trading Dot?
Jason was just in the chat there, and Trader J, and he was telling everyone, you need to hit the likes or we're trading Dot all week, and that's it.
Fuck Dot. Okay.
By the way, for the bid funded,
don't make me pull out that Dot. Don't make me pull out that Dot trade. Yeah, give this man a bid funded immediately.
Well, for the bid funded, I think we need to stick with humor. Right?
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people tell me in the chats they come here just for the humor. It fixed their day. Market shit. Let's keep it funny. Funniest comments win. How many are we doing today?
Okay, we get 5. Let's go. 5.
Okay,
right?
bring on the jokes.
Okay, guys, keep us entertained in the chats, okay? Tell us the best shit. We're going to give you a Bitfunnel. It's worth $79. It's prop trading. They give you a demo account for $5,000. You make 8%, then you make 5%, then you get real money to trade with, and you keep 90% of the profits. Okay, so we're going to give you 5. We're going to give 5 away, okay, to you guys. So the funniest looking person in the chats is Zen. Well, let's see what we got. Okay, keep it coming. So in terms of Sol, potential bounce now at 120 on the lower time frames, but don't forget 110. That's our big level to the downside. How does that tie into our major zones? Well, you can see that's our low there, that 110 region. That is our wick low on the weekly candles. So anything down into that region. So if you have appetite for longs, you can nibble in this region. I'm having a little nibble here on Sol again. Let's see if it turns into something, because one of these should give us a nice bounce on Sol, and then we'll get a nice push, and then we should get a nice rejection zone at one of these types of zones. Now remember, as Sol lowers down, we will lower the short zone for you, and we will adjust that. I'll obviously do that all in Chart Hackers for you guys this week. Remember, all these charts go into Chart Hackers immediately after the show. And Matty says the market's coming down faster than James Panson's first day. Come on, bro. Fucking hell. Okay, so let's look at a couple of things. Here's my current situation. So this link short, Chaos, thank you, sir. Okay, this link short is still fucking printing on the way down, but I'm moving to the point now where I think we need to try this bounce again. So looking for a bounce on link potentially, and here's Sol looking for a Sol bounce in this region at the moment. But this link short, fuck, I don't know. If we catch a nice long here, I think it would be nice to leave the short open, because we might be able to add to it and then really have a fucking massive link short. So looking interesting. We're going to deal with this link chart in a sec here. Let's talk a couple of the big ones. So let's go 𝗬𝗎. Now, I promised you guys some higher time frame stuff. We will have 1 or 2 lower time frame as well, but it's important in these conditions to understand where are my massive zones, where are my weekly zones, where are my capitulation zones if the market starts falling over. So Chaos, I need you here, because you've also got some absolute banging shit for us, and let's go through a couple of these things. So first one is 𝗬𝗎. Now, there's mixed reports or mixed views on 𝗬𝗎. Is it a fucking great token, or is it absolute dog shit? Mixed comments. What do you think?
Mixed comments. I can't make my mind up. I thought it was good. I think there's better alternatives out there, so it's not one for me.
Okay, but in terms of DCA zones, we cannot ignore there are 2 major zones now for 𝗬𝗎. This is us on the weekly, and if anybody was ever looking to DCA into these types of things, there's 2 major zones. There's a zone we're looking at now, okay, at 2.27. We can see this is a massive area, and then there's a capitulation zone where if they send that S&P lower and Bitcoin's pushing 70K and those types of levels, you're probably going to see 𝗬𝗎 and AVAX and Injective and all these things at these new next levels. Okay, so in terms of what could happen here, this is 𝗬𝗎 on the weekly. At any point in time, okay, any point in time, we get a short-term bounce. But we are super bearish on this thing until we reclaim some massive levels to the upside. So in terms of any short bounces, I'm looking to sell these things, and we are ultimately looking lower down. And that is assuming that Trump's plan starts playing out, and the S&P starts dropping to much lower levels. So you're looking at that, and things like that. So detox for the market, and that's probably going to detox 𝗬𝗎 straight into hell. Okay, so Chaos, any weekly views on this thing?
I've got a 12-hour. I'll just show you one really horrifying thing. I know you love horrifying. Just bring the screen up for me.
Okay, there you go. Before presenting, remove the other screen. Okay, they've changed this thing.
That's
okay,
you, right? Yeah. Okay, so listen, very, very simple. We're on a level here, okay? The thing you've got to worry about, you know what word I'm going to say, Dylan.
Capitulation?
Imbalance.
Risk? Imbalance. God, you sound intelligent when you say that.
Fair value gaps.
Oh,
that is a straight...
Say imbalanced again.
Imbalanced.
Oh, I love that. Okay, go. Okay, so you got a big imbalance.
There's a big imbalance coming. Listen, this is before we even look at anything else. The thing that actually draws me to this is there's an actual order pro block here, order block, whatever you want to call it, based off pretty much the bottom of this candle, slightly further down. It wouldn't surprise me to collect this liquidity, and it's a 15% drop.
What's the level?
So realistically, 1.87 to 1.93. And then, listen, if you look at the cash flow, you can see how red we've been. It's literally facing down still. So this, to me, this is almost like a single, I mean, it is a single wick. This is a single push here at the other end. It could go. But then we're on a level. There is some support here. We seem to be right at the bottom of the support. You know, all that remains is to fall through that support and down through these candles into the block, collect the orders, and then we make our move. The bounce will be quite huge, however. That's a 6.
Well, so getting short term, nothing on the 4 hour here.
Short term down.
Short term down, sending us to hell.
Short term, we've got to reclaim some of these liquidity, and if we're there, we may as well come here.
Rick C says he paid $4 for 𝗬𝗎. Look, Rick, all of us have bought the top of something at some point. So congratulations. Welcome to the team, bro. I think a round of applause for buying 𝗬𝗎 at 4. We've all bought the top of something. Okay, we've all done that. And even the meme master bought a couple of memes at some interesting levels there. So it happens to all of us. Don't feel bad. Okay, so final thoughts on 𝗬𝗎 level?
Let's aim for laddering in from $2 down to 188, and let's then try and make our way back up to all of the liquidity much higher, the quantum reactor, the point of control, and yeah, listen, I mean, realistically, we need to punch our way back out of this descending channel. Yeah,
you're sounding pretty bearish.
I don't feel 𝗬𝗎, I'm not too chuffed with. Sorry, it's not a great one.
So don't be sorry. He's giving us what he sees. Okay, so let's talk a couple of short-term things here on 𝗬𝗎. Now, this is for the degens. Okay, now we had a successful move of this thing yesterday. It wasn't as exciting as it could have been, but again, we just played a couple of areas here, and what we waited for was you wait for a couple of reversals and things like that on your oscillator. You can see this thing is vertical at the moment, and it is starting to talk like a potential short-term reversal. Now, a short-term reversal might unfortunately be a tiny little move. It might be 3%, it might be 4%, and that is that is something you need the risk appetite for if you want to go and look. And short-term reversals sometimes turn into bigger things. Okay, and you're only going to know if you take the shot. So what I'm going to give you guys is just a little idea as to what you can play with at the moment, and then you want to understand where you can exit this thing if there is some pumpage. So let's clean this up quickly, and let's take a look at a couple of levels. So I'm just wiping out some of these lower time frame levels of interest. Then we're just looking at some reaction zones, some resistance areas where this thing could potentially push to if it does. And okay, so there we go. So in terms of current upside zones for 𝗬𝗎, 2.5 at best. You look at this wick here. This is also a bit of a problem for me. That is going to be an issue. So 2.4, 2.5, and then I've got a beautiful zone here at 2.6. So these are all your big upside zones, but that doesn't matter right now. Right now, what we need to do is try and see if we can get some kind of sustainable bounce out of this thing. So if you want to go sniffing around before we get to Chaos's level, you may or may not find that 𝗬𝗎 does something in somewhere in this region. Okay, something happens here for 𝗬𝗎 today. Remember, if we lose this area, it tells us we're losing quite a big weekly level, and then we start heading down to Chaos's levels that he's talking about, those order blocks and things like that. So whatever you're doing here, be super cautious. Okay, this is not the time for massive size and super high leverage. You're going to be super careful with how you're playing this. But in terms of these oscillators, what you typically want to see, some kind of divergence here. So just be patient with it. Okay, you can nibble around here, but let it play out. Let it become something. If you see a bit of divergence here in this type of region, then there might be something for you guys on 𝗬𝗎. Now, if you start closing under this 2.5, 2.4, then guys, it's getting stiff. Okay, it's getting ugly out there. You're looking 1.8. You're looking at Chaos's levels 1.9. I mean, I've got this thing down to 1.4. If they really want to force the Vorse down there. So a lot going on to the downside. And just play safe, okay? Be super careful with how you guys are going about your business here. Now, MNGL says, XRP, Cardano, Sol. Full retrace the Trump truth post. No responsibility taken by Trump's team. Very bad look, IMO. That means, in my opinion. But do you know what IMHO means?
honest.
It's amazing. Okay. Was a good trade to take. It's a rough time for the bulls and the optimists. So he's just pointing out, look, these things did full retrace of the move. I think we know that. I think the whole market fucked out completely with all of that drama. So what do we do now with Cardano? Look at these candles. It's so offensive. With what is going on. I mean, the Cardano girls, I'm in the DMs there, and she's not even talking to me now. I think because there's rinsage at the moment. So when it's green again, I'm sure she'll pipe up and tell me to buy Cardano. But right now, she's not talking to me. Let's see. Where can this thing go? So just for me, I just want to touch on a couple of big zones. You can see 64 is the region of interest. Why? Major weekly level. You've got your 618 as well. So in terms of 64 makes sense, probably higher low as well. And there is space to remain a little bit more, a little bit bullish on this thing. So another 10% on Cardano to the downside could be reasonable before the next bounce. And Matthew says Trump's not being polite. I'm not going to read that one. So another 10% down potentially on Cardano for the higher low. Watch 64, guys. That's a big zone. If that fails, you're looking at 52. That's coming next. Geez, Mooding. My God, we haven't looked at that. And Michael says Cardano going back to 0.39. Yeah. Fuck it, bro. There it is. Okay, there's your weekly. What you want to do is you just want to identify lots of weekly touches. If you can find multiple weekly touches in an area, it becomes quite a strong region. So 39.40, that is on the table. But remember, it's not always in a straight line. So there's going to be periods where we might have a week of bullishness in between. It might just look like this, guys. So, don't feel it's going to be a straight line and it's all over. There's going to be a lot of time to have a bit of fun in between. So don't panic too much about that. And bro, Tindo, I'm trying to get them. They know where now. The market's fallen over. But I'm back. I'm in the DMs there. She's coming. Okay, let's go. Chaos, I've got quite a few high time frames, and I'd love your opinion on some of them. First one is Link. You've got Link, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just, this was such a nice trade that you gave us in our Hackers Zoom on Friday, and that's actually been one of my best performers. So what an amazing call there. Thank you. In terms of what I'm looking at now, what I want to know from you is, if I close my short now, is it the right thing? Should I be flipping long? What are you thinking? Because what I've got here on the weekly at the moment is 12. That is my main support for Link. I'm expecting quite a solid bounce from Link at around about 12. So I'd be surprised if it doesn't bounce, at that area. So another 10% down. What do you have for me there?
So actually, I don't think Link is done yet. So just jumping on multiple time frames, if nothing else, just bring up the cash flow, which is now red, negative, and pointing down. The RSI is facing down. Everything's still facing down, and it's not just the 12-hour. There was a big sort of dip. It didn't translate to something huge. However, we're still firmly facing down. Cash flow's red. As you can see by the previous time we were red, we were down at these levels, okay? We're still up here. So there's still potential to actually drop through this zone here and start to see this short play out and actually continue to make our way down to the next liquidity. However, that's just on this time frame. If we actually zoom in just a little bit, because I have to say 10 seems absolutely demonic. Look, we've turned and pushed up and we've immediately turned down again. We're red. Everything's feeling bearish. The liquidity is all above here at this point. We've got a QR, which we kind of could do with going to banger head on again. But this short, there doesn't seem to be that many signs of it really being expired yet. We're still going down. There's on the longer time frames, we've had no engulfing candles. We've had no bullish hammers. We've just got the short print. We've had a short. There was a quick fake out and the short's printed again. And at this point, there's no TPs, there's no hammers, there's nothing. So, this level is 10 and there's not a huge amount in between. So 12 is very manageable because you've got a cluster here, all the way along, right? But to me, 10 seems like it might be on the cards as well.
Okay, so guys, again, we don't want to. You don't have to apologize for what you said. It is what it is. But in terms of, for me, Link bounce at 12. I'm going to close that short above 12. I think there's a bounce. But in terms of what Chaos is saying, here's 10. It's a massive weekly level. Why wouldn't it be a magnet? Here's our 786. If you look at a lot of these other altcoins like ETH, for example, They front running. We've lost these trends. A lot of them have these trends. We've already lost it. It's just telling you a story that it's coming. So how does it get there? Well, you might have a bounce in between. So for me, I'm calling a bounce for Link at around 12. That's a massive level. I'd be very surprised if it goes straight through this 12 region. And then lower down, when we do eventually get there, 10 chaos is an absolute banger there. That is huge. And then obviously down to 9. Look at that weekly. Look at this weekly at 9. Look at that massive level there. So I think we see these at some point. So what does it look like? It might look something like this, and then we come back into that zone. So that's pretty much how I'm seeing things at the moment. It's looking terrible.
I just want to add one disclaimer, guys. I have got some long zones on other coins. I'm not completely the bear today.
Okay, bring us along. Okay, so okay. Chaos is bringing us along. The next chart is going to be a long setup. Okay, we're waiting. Okay, so let's see what else I've got here for you guys. I want to cover tons of higher time frames. So there's our link. Okay, so we don't have our 4-hour reversal yet. Okay, so but potential short-term bounce here on link. We'll deal with that in chart hackers. I'll drop that for you guys. Now let's talk high time frame. Ondo. Okay, Ondo on the weekly, our darling of RWAs. This is it. It's bounce here or cut it off. It's literally, this is it. Bounce now, cut it off. I mean, do you concur? I mean, I don't know. This is our level, guys. So for me, Ondo, 79, that's the line in the sand. If we close under 79, we're starting a journey to the downside. What does that journey look like? Well, you probably rinse down, then it pumps up, and then it comes back down into that type of region. That is kind of what I'm leaning to at the moment. So I'm just waiting for this short-term bounce. I know we're going to get a 10 or 15% out of this market at some point. We've just got to make sure we got ammo ready to catch this thing, but I do believe we're going lower. So Ondo, 79, that's your low. And then 58. That's pretty much where I am on Ondo. You don't have that one. You've got GRT.
Right. I've got Ondo on the screen right now.
You're going to burn us.
No. I'm completely in agreement with you. So I don't even need to draw anything on this one. It's very simple, guys. There's an order block there, which comes down to 79.30. Okay. And that's literally self-explanatory. All right. I do need to draw on this. Tell a lie. There's our drawing. What did you say? 58.
50, yeah, 50.
Yep, yeah, 57.8. That's the bottom of that wick.
Yeah.
So
okay,
exactly the same. You don't need to be, I mean, that's 25%. That's disgusting. But I don't think we're going to see that. I think we will get a bounce before that. Nothing else to add. We're in a bounce zone now, so we should have to cut it off if it doesn't bounce.
Okay, so guys, you know what to do. Guys, you're cutting it off. Girls, you passed this one. Okay, so you can see it, guys. This is the zone. It's a massive weekly zone. It's bounce now, cut it off. Then we're going to 59. That's pretty much where we are. Tang Lang, this might be your lucky day, bro. I actually do have fetch for you. And not too long ago, I think I said it with you on the show. And I mean, we didn't quite believe it, but I said the market bottoms when fetch is at 50. Now fetch is at 50, but I don't know if the market's going to bottom. Jeez. Anyway, so those looking for fetch, this is a zone. So let's just talk about this area. Why is this an interesting area? Well, it's a massive weekly again. We've got a macro trend in play as well. So looks like this is at worst case a DCA zone. Okay, so if you believe fundamentally in this project, this is typically a zone you're looking at accumulating some of this. Now, with understanding that if the market gets dirty, which we believe it will, okay, we believe it can get a bit darker, you're looking at quite a few lower levels. Now, we'll go through all of these, when the time is right. But this thing could easily push to 25. This thing could easily push to 18. So we're in the zone now. Anything down to 47 is a bounce now for me. And Crypto Juggles is fetch at 50, bottom confirmed. Yeah, look, you can see, guys, on this chart, you can see this is a potential reaction zone, potential bounce zone here. So 50 does make sense. Remember, one of these moves in the market, when we do get our reversal, it's going to be hard and fast, and it's going to be fun at some point because you're going to have things like this. You're going to have, that's a 65% bounce potentially at some point. You've even got this one that's going to give you a 40% bounce at some point. So it's a matter of time. It's a matter of patience. And Fetch does care, bro, bottoming already, according to Syed. Okay. Chaos, what else you got? Give us a long here.
All right. If you want to bring the screen up when you're ready.
We are at the top of the bottom.
We are. Okay, there we go. All right, Sonic or Phantom. Okay, this thing has properly shit the bed to the point where if you grab a fib tool from that low, pull it to the top, you can see it just about back at the, you know, zero again. So nice. There's a lot of confidence for everybody that missed this move. Okay, don't be misjudging Andre Cronje and what the Phantom stroke Sonic ecosystem can actually do. We should, in theory, see this again. This is the bottom of the descending channel. This is a big support area based on an order block. This is the zero level of the previously mentioned fib. Now, the cash flow has died, okay? But it can't die forever. We're slowly, we had a low there. There was a low there. There's obviously a low there. Now we've come down slightly, but I mean, you can't see it on this chart, but if I make that big, we are slowly coming up, albeit for the most recent one. But what I'm actually anticipating is that this thing does in fact find a reversal point. Now, from where we are to that point, it's still 11%, okay? Do not short this point because we're at the bottom of this descending channel. You know, it hasn't even always dipped to the bottom of the outside of the channel. Sometimes we've bounced when we've just entered. I mean, this one did push through, but there's every reason to suspect that we'll either pick those orders up and get a proper bounce, or we might just bounce off the channel again and keep going to this midpoint. So,
entry, 10% dip.
Listen, let's go with somewhere, start to ladder in below 40. So say 39.8, 38.8. and 37.8. Give yourself 3 entries. Typically, when you get a print, and this is using chart prime, is a massive move up. Then we get a print, there's a massive move down. Guys, if we get the buy signal and the print, I'd like to think we start to get, we should start to gain some of these levels.
Okay, there you go. There's Sonic. Now, I've got 2 more for you guys, and we're running out of time because we need to give away these Bitfunders here. What are we doing, Captain?
I've got the names here already. I was monitoring the chat with the funniest ones here.
Okay, so who are the winners?
Winners. First one is 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Second one is Maddie Ice 860. Maddie.
Nice.
Third one is Long C. C is in Charlie.
Okay.
Fourth is Elongate.
Yeah.
And the last one is 𝗬𝗫𝗀_Sultan.
Okay, there you go, guys. You're going to mail giveaways at cryptobanter.com. Have you told them in the chats already?
I'm about to right now.
Okay. Yep. Giveaways at cryptobanter.com. Those names that have just been read out, you're going to mail giveaways at cryptobanter.com, and we're going to sort you out with a Bitfunded for being just such fucking legends. Okay, so thank you guys for you, and thank you obviously for the support and staying strong in these conditions. Now, let's go through. I want to give you guys a little bit more alpha. Yeah, I got to give you guys a few more charts. So let's talk Cass. I know this is Chaos's favorite, but he's been very quiet lately. He doesn't talk about Cass much because we are down. I mean, we're getting taken out from the highs. We are 70% down from the highs, and we're moving into buy zone. So for me, guys, I'll keep it very short and sweet. Cass buy zone 51. Cass buy zone 32. Anything between that is noise. Okay, so 51, 32. Those are your Cass buy zones. I'm going to drop that in Chart Hackers for you guys. That will be there ready to go. Then I saw a comment from Shannon. He says, Render. Bro, Render, remember we just spoke about, we're going to show you DRT now as well. We just spoke about Link getting front run by a lot of these other tokens. Look at that. Here's our rising trend on Link. Just interesting. Okay, we're seeing a lot of trends getting lost on some of these tokens, and here's the trend getting lost on Render. So super bearish, but what does this tell us? It tells us when we eventually find a bottom, wherever that bottom is, it could be there at 1.9, you do get a beautiful bounce before we get to sell it again. So it's a matter of time. But in terms of Render, I just want to highlight this for you because this is a potential bounce zone. And if the market bounces, you should get a reaction down to the zone. You can see we've got some weekly candles here. You just want to make sure you've got some weekly tie-in. You want to get 3 or 4 weekly touches there. It's not amazing. Okay, it's not amazing, but it's a level, 2.6. Okay, so 2.6 for Render. Then you've got 2 for render. 2.6 and 2. One of these zones should give you a nice recovery bounce here for the market before there is a little bit more pain. Now, talking of AI, can you give us some GRT? That thing looks absolutely rinsed. Keen to see what you've got here.
Okay. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. Short, cooking, cash flow, red, like literally very red. It doesn't show signs of letting up. We are, however, at the bottom of a descending channel again, and all the liquidity is above, and the money flow point of control is above. I would suggest that at some point when we get the bounce, I mean, we did attempt to turn green here and go. What we might see is this, where it dips some more, and then we get the move, and that should, in theory, translate to this. So if we do get that, at the very least, my entry is in the region of 8.8 cents, and we're going to be targeting a 20% move up to the 10.5, 10.6 region. Potentially, though, the middle line of this channel, which
how far to 8.8 from here?
From here is 2%. Not 2%.
Okay,
1
so,
point.
okay.
Yeah, we're getting close.
Okay, and then I've got 2 more for you guys, super fast. Yeah, okay. So you guys, that chart's going to be in Chart Hackers for you. Then we've got another one here. This is Injective. Okay, also getting absolutely rinsed, and it's dropped into our big zone. Look at that. We've lost our rising trend. So you've seen this pattern now everywhere. One of these zones should give us a big snapback bounce at some point on these tokens. So right now, in terms of interesting areas for me, Injective, anything between 10 and 2. These are big zones. This is a big weekly region for us. You can see there's action in this area. This is not a high leverage degen zone. This is a DCA zone. You can see in terms of potential bounces, 10 to 8. That area makes sense to me. Okay, this is a big zone here. Look at all this weekly support in this region here as well. That's a massive area here for us. So Injective traders, 10 to 8, looking for a bounce within that region there. And then bonk traders, look at this. This is it. 2 big zones. There's 2 big zones left. So bonk is anything down to 95. Makes sense to me. And then your big next one, and this is on market capitulation, is going to be at 50. Okay, so this is bonk on the weekly, keeping it as clean as possible. So massive bounce zone down to 95, and then 50 is the next one. Okay. Michael says Injective should be 20, not 9. Well, I tell you what, Michael, it will go back to 20 at some point. So it's just a matter of surviving. Are you going to buy it down to 2 if it goes there? And remember, we get these snapback bounces at some point. So it's a matter of patience, guys. Less trades now. Just be patient. The market will give us when it needs to give us. It will give us. And remember, if we get a pump in the market, non-euphoric. We're looking for shorts. We're looking to take profits. We're doing those things, and we'll cover you every single day here on Banter Plus. Okay, so I've got you guys. Chaos, he'll get you in hackers every day as well. Thank you, sir.
See you guys.
Miserable news, but might be some light at the end of the tunnel there. Thank you. James, thank you, Captain. Excellent work. Okay, guys, so yeah, the job here, Syed, there, he says it, there, okay? Survive. That's all you need to do. Survive now. Hang in there, watch the show, learn the work in the hard times. This is where you learn new skills. This is where you perfect yourself, because you want to have an edge over all the guys that aren't doing the work now, that have disappeared. They're going to come back when the market's pumping 10, 20, 30%. You've done the work, okay? You have the edge. So keep watching, do the work, and you'll be streets ahead of those guys later on as well. Okay, see you tomorrow. Catch you later.